Servum17 once again, introducing you to my Darksiders 2 Apocalyptic difficulty video walkthrough. We're in the Cauldron, and this is the first dungeon of the game. So this is going to introduce you to the concept of pushing levers, stepping on plates, throwing bomb flowers, and all sorts of other stuff. And this first dungeon's not too bad, it's not too long, and luckily enough, it's not been so long that I didn't completely forget my way around it, so I could finish this I could finish this area quite quick. And combat tips to give. Early on, when you don't have the weapons or the stats in the weapons to really make the combat a numbers game, I would definitely suggest juggling if you can, because you do seem to be safer when you're in the air. And a good way of getting yourself there is when you do a couple hits with these scythes. If you press A, he does a little flip that knocks the enemies up, and then from there you can continue to juggle. One thing I do love to do with the combat, especially when I have the heavy weapons, is I love to do the charge moves, because they just do so much damage. They stun enemies, they knock them over. They make the fighting a lot less of a hassle than it needs to be. Me personally, my favourite weapon of the genre is the arm blades, the ones that look like Guyver blades on your wrist. And it's not because they're fast, and it's not because you can chain some super good combos. It's because the heavy attack fires like a sonic boom, and it enables you to snipe enemies from a distance, and also hit more than one enemy in a good radius quite quickly. And there's an enemy on this game called a Stalker that we're going to actually meet in this dungeon, and it's a bastard. And it's only a bastard because it's got a lot of life, it's very tanky, and it's got this attack where it does a little roar, and then it dashes at you, and it does an area of effect, and it can spam this move, and it does so much damage on this difficulty, it's ridiculous. If it does it 2 times in a row, you can go from full life to dead. So that's a little indication of how much bullshit there is in that move. But that particular weapon set, when you jump and you do the heavy attack, it fires blades. And when you do that to the Stalkers, they have trouble hitting you, so it can make them a lot less difficult than they need to be. But there is a section towards the end where you take on, I think, their albino Stalkers, and there's 4 of them in an arena when you go into like hell or something. And that is probably the hardest fight of the game, because the enemies are all trying to gangbang you. These Stalkers are all spamming that area of effect, and sometimes you'll just die. And there's no skill in it. There's no way to do it without taking damage, because everything's attacking you at once, and there's no block, and you can only dodge 3 times before he does his little fancy flip that gets you killed. I don't know. You see, the combat of this game I have to talk about, mainly because it is an improvement over Darksiders, but it's also an insult to these games. Like, this game carries so much from God of War. It's unbelievable. It carries so many of its, influences on its sleeve. Like, look at this. Bomb flowers, guys. This is not 1997. Bomb flowers. That's effectively what we're doing. And don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with that. I like bomb flowers. I enjoyed the Dongo's Cavern. But this is 2012, and the combat's the thing that gets me the most, because the platforming is adequate at best. If anybody played Prince of Persia for the PlayStation, you'll know Ubisoft mastered platforming controls. That's the reason why Assassin's Creed usually feels so good, because they know what they're doing. They've cut the teeth on platformers, they found out what feels good, what feels well. And then you've got games like this that kind of see what those games did, but they don't have the function beneath, they don't have that level of quality. And one of the reasons why I would never do a nightmare playthrough on this game is, well, actually, that's a lie, because I don't know if falling to your death counts as a death on this game, because it counts as a death on your indicator when people look at your gamer tag and see how many times you've died, but I don't know if it counts as a death towards nightmare mode, which I hope it doesn't, because people are in trouble with that, because there's moments where there are timed jumping sections, and in these timed jumping sections, you're being chased by lava or some kind of environmental hazard, and it's more than easy to be holding up an A for death to jump up, and he does it at the wrong point, or he doesn't jump upwards, he jumps to the side. Like, there's innumerous moments like when you have to drop and you press B and the game doesn't drop, so you press B twice, and that hesitation because it didn't follow the commands you put in means that when you did drop, the lava caught you and you died. And it made it so that the bit where the lava chases you and you're doing the platforming was the hardest part of the game, because the platforming felt like a piece of shit when I was doing it. And I've gone on a massive tangent, but this is the room with the stalker. There is a side quest for killing this stalker, so I am going to fight it, but you might notice I'm on low life, and there are moments in this game where I don't want to use the potions, because I feel like I should be saving them for a better time, but when you're playing, never ever be skimpy with the potions. You can just warp out of the dungeons and buy more. They're so cheap, they're so plentiful, it's kind of silly. But what I was mentioning, like, this game steals so much from God of War's, you know, design etiquette, with the bees above the heads, with, you know, some of the combos and the ease of use of action stuff, but then it doesn't at the same time. It leaves, that's the area of effect move just there, you just saw it. It leaves behind a lot of the quality. Like platforming in God of War, when you climb on vines, you can tap the jump button to fast swing across all the vines. You can't do that on this game. Like, did they have a copyright on that exact thing? Or did somebody play God of War for 10 minutes, climb a vine, and not realise you could dash, and thought that it was a good idea and put it in his game? It's like, why would you not innovate on everything? And like the swimming's great. This game has fantastic swimming because it lets you boost when you're in the water. Now just let us boost when we're platforming. Goodness me. It's simple logic, guys. But the combat, there should be a block. There really should. Because this game does a cardinal sin that a decent action game shouldn't do. And that is, it throws 5 million guys at you almost every fight, and it completely diminutizes the weight and the design of their enemies. Because when you take on 3 enemies in a room, it's a good fight. When you take on one big enemy one-on-one, it's a good fight, and it feels like the combat works. It feels like everything was designed and well thought out. And then the next room, you're taking on 5 of the big fat dudes with 20 of the little dudes, and this really well-designed, you know, crafted combat system just goes to hell in a handbasket, because all you can do is bash, evade, and get cheeky hits in every so often. So it turns from this combat game where you had the nuanced and the interesting combat into, I'm going to run around and then bash. And that's it. And it's sad. It's really sad, because they've tried a lot to make this combat better than the first game, and you know, on a face value, it looks amazing. There's fancy combos, there's juggling, there's all this kind of stuff, but then there's a counter-attack like technique in the game that they introduce to you after you've done 6 or 7 dungeons, and then when you do get it, it's so finicky that the timing on it's not even worth doing, because the damage, you know, they do not reward you with enough damage to make it a valuable technique. And it's the same with the stats. There's no connection with you to your character as far as stats go, because all you're looking at is for green numbers, because there's so many statistics that the game doesn't really explain, and these are statistics that you can't influence aside from with your gear, so leveling up becomes this charade of getting skill points, and then when you realise when you look at the skill trees, there isn't anything worth buying. There's like 4 skills that are cool and everything else is just boring. So if you're like me and you get to the point where you've got 9 skill points and not to spend it on because the moves just sound so dull, like, why the hell are you leveling at this point? It doesn't seem to affect your stats too much, because your stats don't seem to affect anything. It's not like you can, you know, stack strength or stack endurance or stack vitality like a Dark Souls type game, because that's not how it works. It's numbers that you have no real relation to, and everything is completely obsessed on this gear mechanic. This, you know, if it's got green, it's better. If it's red, it's not. And some people will find a lot of enjoyment in it. Like, look at this. In God of War, you could slide down these vines. How the hell do you get that wrong? And I do sound quite angry and quite aggressive, and it does sound like I'm shitting on this game a lot, but I've got to get this out, folks, because this is a good game. It's just got problems, and if I don't tell people the problems first, then they're going to go out and buy it, and they're going to wonder what the fuck have they bought, because if they're anything like me, and they notice a lot of the mechanics, a lot of the functions that go into making these games that we all enjoy, you're going to see a lot of holes, and some of them can be really off-putting. But thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next part. You take care now.